Yeah, this is eye-opening stuff, man. It's like some of this stuff as you talk through it. But yeah, I've got some great, solid, personal friendships with people. I have few, but they're really solid and really good. And I wouldn't trade the few I have for, a million friendships that are less deep, if you will.
This is Intentionally Ever After. Join intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek for a series of personal conversations and coaching sessions with various people about how living with intention shows up for them.
Well, thank you for joining me and being willing to have yourself recorded and discuss intentionality.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. As we get started, would you kindly provide an introduction as to who you are that someone not finding you on the internet would like to know about you?
So yeah, funny introduction, something I'm not comfortable with at all. But yeah, I guess what defines me is I'm a father of two teenage girls, 21 and 18. And it's never been easy. We've had a series of challenges as they've grown up with both of them, differing challenges, some pretty serious. And you don't realize how much they can shift your perspective on things and on life until you experience things, things you didn't ask for or foresee happening, but they happen. And, things that mattered, you thought mattered greatly to you become things that don't matter at all. So I think raising these two girls has shaped my life in a lot of ways in terms of how I see things. Maybe that's the serious side of things. The not so serious side of me is I'm an avid weather fanatic. In another life, I will be a meteorologist. I'll be a storm chaser. I'll be a hurricane hunter. I will fly on those hurricane hunter planes. I don't know. I think I crave chaos without knowing how to go get it. So it's like chaos by way of observation, if you will.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it that you don't know how to go get it, or you're not interested in being in it?
I think I want to be in it at another point in my life, maybe. From a practical sense, it makes no sense at all, right? I don't care how you look at it. I think the meteorology piece of it probably made sense at one point, that was achievable. I can wrap my head around that. The idea of storm chasing and hanging out on the beach during a hurricane, probably not going to go over that well with my family.
All right.
It's almost like 10 years ago, I was like, I want to ride motorcycles. I'm going to go get my designation or whatever, right? You go take a class and stuff, and then they stamp your driver's license. Now you can ride motorcycles. I'm like, I'm going to get a motorcycle. And at the time, maybe it's longer than 10 years ago, the kids were young. And at the time, I wasn't thinking through, I have kids now and these responsibilities. This is a dumb idea to do now. I'm doing it. Alethea was actually supportive. And I think only because her father rode, still rides today. And she's like, okay, fine. See if you like it first before we buy anything. So story here is went to the beach. My father-in-law took his bike, took his Harley. My sister-in-law took her little Honda Shadow. And that was going to be my first motorcycle ride. And it was my first and only motorcycle ride. And went out with my father-in-law. We tooled around in the parking lot, kind of got comfortable with the bike. So let's hit the road. Made it a half a mile and it ran out of gas. I pushed that bike back a half a mile to the gas station. Guy gas. He's like, do you want to keep riding? I'm like, no, I'm done. But it's like, I don't. And I think the novelty of it, like, you're in the moment, you're doing it, and you're like, it's okay. I guess it's not what I thought. It sounded more glamorous or whatever than it actually was. So, and then you start to dial it back and go, you know what, this is dumb. I have kids. I shouldn't be getting on a motorcycle. I can't control everything. If I go down, I may not get back up. So that kind of killed that. But yeah. Fast forward today, my father-in-law, he did go down about 2 years ago. Frosty went down on they were doing a multi-state motorcycle trip with a group of his. And they were somewhere down around Lynchburg. And he ended up hitting a wet patch or something and got a little too close, or it wasn't a wet patch. He got too close to the side of the road, and front tire or the rear tire, one of the tires kind of fell off like a 2 or 3 inch lip on the edge of the highway. And he ended up at 50 or 60 miles an hour going into the median, so the middle of the divided highway. Thankfully, there was 20 or 30 feet of median and just tall, wet grass, because he laid the bike down in that tall, wet grass, and he must have slid 100 yards. Wow. And of course, everybody said, oh my God, Frosty went down doing 55, 60. He's not getting back up. And sure shit, he was fine. I mean, he got beat up a little bit. He ended up calling me because he didn't want to call Alethea and he didn't want to call his wife. So he called me and said, dude, I'm going to need a ride back. I'm like, no problem. Where are you? I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia, at the hospital down there. And of course I had to tell Alethea, my wife, so I can go down there and get him. And she's freaking out. I was like, don't tell your mother, blah, blah, blah. Of course she tells her mother.
Of course she does, yeah.
So the secret was dead before I even left the house.
Yeah.
But went down and got him. But you realize how lucky, I mean, because there were parts of that highway, the median didn't extend the whole way. I mean, there were parts with the median, parts without a median. Mm-hmm. So he could have just as easily gone down. And there were parts with guardrails around the median and parts with no guardrails around the median. So, he got lucky, but again, just kind of reinforces that I get too much responsibility, too many people dependent on me to do silly stuff. And one of those silly things is hanging out in a hurricane, even though it's on my bucket list.
Yeah. Hanging out in a hurricane on your motorcycle.
Yeah. Motorcycle's in the garage, but yeah. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I went off tangent there, but
no, good. I mean, I'm glad you kind of did, because typically when you're giving an introduction or one gives an introduction, it's typically, what do you do for work, right?
That's boring.
That kind of extends to the end of it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's boring, but maybe if you were a storm chaser, it'd be less boring. I don't know.
Right. So I'm a numbers guy. It doesn't get any more boring than that, Joe.
Yeah, I don't want any more details. Stop right there.
I live in a spreadsheet all day, right? So nobody wants to hear about that.
That's right. That's dangerous.
My part-time job, that is raising kids. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an important part about who you are, and I know that about you. It's a role you take very seriously and you have a lot of pride in. So this podcast is all about living intentionally. You said yourself you got a chance to look over some of these questions moments at a time.
I did.
But you and I have had enough conversations around this topic, at least, various levels of depth, I should say. So for you, what does it mean to live intentionally?
I think it's about the word purposeful. I guess, with goals in mind, with things to look forward to, almost like a plan, whether formal or not, but there's something in your head that says, this is what I'm striving to become better, but you've got to make it happen, right? It's a series of steps to get you to some other goal. So it's intentionally trying to get there, purposely trying to get there, as opposed to, well, this might happen or it might not. Yeah. I guess that's how I would define it.
At what point does it shift from being purposeful or intentional? Is it the action piece? Is it having a plan to get there?
Yeah, I think, for sure. Yeah. I'm good at developing plans, not just good at executing them, but yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's fair.
Yes. Yeah. It's, you've got to I think it's sort of the intent to make something happen, by way of making it happen, engineering it, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So how about for you specifically? What does it look like for you to live intentionally?
I think I'm still working on that and figuring that part out. I think breaking it down into, almost like a daily, this is my day, and it ends up being a sum of your days, honestly, right? It's just a series of small goals at the end of the day. I'm really good at thinking through them, right? And kind of laying them out. I'm not so good at actually doing them. And I don't know if that's because I'm not setting them up correctly. I don't know if it's because I'm making excuses, right? Or I should say finding excuses. That's I'm not making anything up. I think I justify things as being a legitimate excuse. Maybe they are sometimes, maybe they're not sometimes, but I think where I've had success in the past, it has been like, okay, this is what I need to do today. That's all I'm worried about, all I'm focused on, get through the day, and then give myself a check mark if I got through that day, and then move on to the next and keep it sort of at that level.
Well, hang on a second. That sounds pretty intentional to me.
The plan?
I mean, you gave me a formula and you said you like to stick to that formula.
Yeah, with the preface that I'm really good at coming up with the plan. It's the execution side, Joey.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's a part where you still are striving to do differently, perhaps, but you seem to have a method to your madness thus far. Maybe.
I think I also overanalyze, overcomplicate things, overthink things. I know I overthink stuff, and then I take a pause, going, "Well, is that the right way?" I'm doing that. If, for example, I'm not where I want to be physically, health and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I entered a little 12-week challenge, like formally online, took the pictures, took the measurements, submitted it this morning, right? It's like, okay, I can attempt to do something solo without telling anybody, but I'm not good at keeping myself accountable, right? That's kind of hard for me. If I tell you, tell my buddy, physically sign up, right? And now I'm competing with thousands. Like, it's real now, right? It's a game now, right? As opposed to something I want. We'll see if I get there. It's 12 weeks, 100 days, whatever it is, right? See if I get there. Baby steps, day at a time. Part of signing up was a series of questions. We want to know about you and kind of your motivation. Why are you doing this in the first place? I probably spent 3 hours answering 3 questions.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And I don't think it matters how you answer the question. But again, I overthink the response to a question. And I write it and I delete it. And then I do it again. And at the end, I was happy with what I submitted, even though nobody cares. Right? Nobody's going to read it. They don't know me. They could care less about what I wrote. It's meaningless. But I spent 3 hours doing that. Yeah. I should have spent 3 hours on your questions. That's what I should have done. Why? Because that's meaningful. Maybe to somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
So my priorities were probably wrong this morning. But given that it's the first and it started today, it's one of those things. All right, let's knock it out. Right? So I've made some plans. What am I going to do each day? What's the workout program going to look like, and various other things. Right? And I'm trying to keep it simple and not overthink it.
Yeah.
Super simple. It's funny, you being a coach, and I did this a couple of years ago, and actually I was really successful with it, but I had a trainer, and I don't need a trainer to work out with. So what we did is he was more of a coach. We would work out together once a month. And it was really just to kind of get together. It's like, okay, we're going to get together once a month, whatever. We didn't have to train, but that's what we did. The rest of it was he would give me the workout, the weights, the exercises, the rep scheme, all that kind of stuff. He had an app. I would fill in what I did in the app. He would make adjustments and give them back to me. And I wouldn't talk to him except for that once a month. I mean, he was available, but I didn't reach out. But I was still accountable because I knew he was looking at what I was doing, right? Every night or 6 days a week, he was going to look at what I did. And if he needed to, he was going to sort of re-prescribe what the next day or workout or whatever it would look like. And I didn't miss a workout. I lost a ton of weight. I was in best shape of my life 2 summers ago. And then I injured my shoulder during a workout, my right shoulder. And I still have pain to this day. It's manageable now. I just totally stopped working out. And then when I stopped working out, I stopped caring about what I was eating. But anyway, when somebody took the decision-making out of my hand, it wasn't my problem. I just did what somebody told me. I was way more successful than when I had to figure out what I needed to do. Even though I can figure out what I need to do and it's not hard, I just overcomplicate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have identified a key to your success. And maybe rather than trying to overcome that, you just let it be. Just lean into it and say, you know what? I know I need this to be successful, at least in the short term. So, I mean, you certainly have the option to try to overcome that and try to be a self-starter, self-motivated, yada, yada. So
48.
Fine. Right.
I figured myself out.
It's not, it's not impossible, but it's also not necessarily, But if you know that's what helps for you to tell someone else you're going to do a thing, right? You have that indirect accountability, like you've just shared with me, right? And anybody else who's going to eventually listen to this thing.
Yeah.
All right. And you shared it with your other buddy and you signed up and you submitted your questions. So it's out there. And for you, that sounds like it's going to be enough. It'll get you through the 12 weeks. And so knowing that, what's the long-term goal? Are you trying to continue involving yourself in these competitions to keep going? Or is it just to hit the mark and coast?
It is a jump start, I think. Yeah. In the competition itself, I don't care about, right? I do for 12 weeks. And I want to get back to a certain place, just be happy with myself again. Partly to prove I can get back there. It's not as easy as it used to be. It wasn't easy 2 years ago when I got there. Better shape than I was when I was in my 20s. When at least I thought I was more intentional about everything, back then. Reality was I'm sure I wasn't. The consistency I'm sure wasn't there, right? I like to think it was, but I'm sure it wasn't. It's one of those things. It's, as you know, it's a never ending thing. Like you stop for a while and you lose a lot of it. If you were to stop running for 6 months, that first run afterwards would be hard, it goes away quick.
It does.
I just like to get into a mindset, I guess, where it is just part of the daily routine. It's a meeting with myself every morning or 6 mornings a week. And I don't overthink it. I just get up and do it. And then I go about my day.
One might call that a habit.
One might. Very much. Yes.
Good.
So remind me, how many days does a habit make?
Well, as long as you're doing it consistently. Some say 30 days. Some say it's like 39, I think. But I'd say
perhaps 100. will get me there, right?
Perhaps. Yeah. I would suggest if it's a habit that it makes sense for you, that you want to do past the 12 weeks, perhaps, that you want to instill.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I really do. I enjoy it. I've always been, it's always been a part of my life. It's just been a part of my life in chunks where I do it for a couple of months and then I don't do it for a couple of months for whatever reason. I get busy at work. I hurt my shoulder. Generally there's something that causes me to stop. And then it's a matter of getting through whatever it is I need to get through and then sort of starting back up. And then I'm starting back up basically, kind of where I started last time. Right. Yeah. So it's not like I'm building on what I did before. Generally, I'm just kind of starting over. And I'd like to,
You'd like to what?
No, I think that's it. That's it.
You don't want to put yourself on the hook for anything.
Well,
that's fair.
I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's an easy thing, right? Like fitness and working out, right? But I think it's a metaphor for lots of things. But to me, it's kind of low hanging fruit. I just got to do it because I enjoy it. So I'm not hitting it, like tackling it as though it's like some chore or work or project or some assignment or something. It's something I want to do. Just got to do it.
Yeah. I feel like you've probably tackled this in what we've been talking about here, but what is one change in habit that is for you has made an exponential payoff?
That's a hard one. I don't know. I'm not great with habits, long-term habits. I mean, I'm not even sure I want to bring this up, but like my habits have been work related, I don't know if it's a habit. It's like work has, other than family, and more so family when it's urgent, right? Something that I absolutely have to be there for, but maybe the day-to-day family stuff is not the priority, but work has always been the priority, for better, for worse. And that's, I think, going back to the working out, that's where it's easy for me to, wake up in the morning, have it on my calendar that I'm going to train, from 6 to 7, whether it's a run or weights or whatever, wake up and go, oh, there's some emails. Somebody asked me for something. My instinct is to go do what they asked me for, right? That's my habit, is to make others happy at work. I could argue that it served me well, in terms of where I've gotten to be in my career. I could also make an argument that I'm not necessarily happy because of it. I mean, I'm happy professionally, but there's other areas in my life that I'm not as happy about that I think could have been better had I not been so focused there.
Because of the habit of taking on the work and improving your value?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know can you call that a habit? I don't know. It
sounds like the way you're describing it sounds like a habit. It's
the way I'm wired, maybe. Please others before myself, maybe, in a way. Not a bad trait to have, but I crave some balance, maybe more so as I get older. Is like my wife. She's like, I can't wait to be back in the office. She's a people person. She's in HR, right? She just wants to be meeting people and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm good if I never go into an office again. But it doesn't change how I still wake up and feel about, work and stuff. Last Sunday I worked. Did I need to? Probably not. But I knew how busy the week was going to be. And I'm like, this is a quiet time. I can get some stuff out of the way without people bothering me. But work came first, right? It was 2 days after Christmas, right? And I tried to take time off and I couldn't, or maybe I could have, but to me I couldn't. But to me I couldn't. The way my mind works, I couldn't. That was the priority. So that's a terrible example of a habit, but honestly, that's the one thing that I do day in and day out that I don't break from.
Sounds like a habit.
So not always a good habit, personally. Good for others. Good for my company.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's good or not good. I mean, I think you're saying maybe it's good for the people at work, right? It's good for you professionally. Yeah. So it must continue to feel good enough that you keep doing it. So
I'm sure there's truth in that. Yeah.
Well, seemingly.
I think all of us like to do a good job. I think we all like to feel appreciated, by those we serve, except for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't care about people.
You got that all figured out.
That's right.
But, personal habits outside of brushing my teeth, I don't know that I have any that I would consider, ingrained habits that it is how it is. I mean, there's lots of things, I try to drink a bottle of water every morning, before I even have my coffee. Successful about half the week, not every day. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I need more habits, dude.
Maybe. Do you want more habits? Do you feel like you have a need for more habits?
I think carving out the personal time each day. I think if that defines a habit, I need that. And whether it's working out or whatever, I got to carve that out better. Yeah, it's got to be a meeting with myself. It's non-negotiable, if you will.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Much in the way that you prioritize other people's needs at work.
Yes,
Sounds like.
much exactly in those ways. Yeah. Yep.
So maybe this next question will tap into that a bit more too. What have you said no to that has made a significant impact in your life?
So we can probably dig into the no. When I first read the question, my first inclination was to ask you if I could change the no to a yes.
Oh, interesting. I'm compelled to say no, but tell me more.
You could say no. Here's where I was going to go with that. So for my entire life, I would say up until like 2 years ago, because it is something I've been very intentional about. I would say no to lots of stuff, social stuff, concert stuff, like things that somebody said, hey, you want to do this? And I'd be like, not really interested. No, that was my reaction. Mm-hmm. Too much effort to make it happen, whatever it was. A couple of years ago, I'm like, this is stupid. I think I did say yes to something one time, and I was like, oh, that was a lot of fun. But it got me thinking that what if I went like a year without saying no, like when I was invited to go do something, figure out a way to make it work, be there, whatever, just say yes and just do it and see if you enjoy it. I would say the last couple of years, I probably say yes to 80%, 85% of things I get invited to go do or read or whatever, right? And I would say if it's 85%, 80% of the time, I'm glad I did it. Like I have zero regrets. And I don't find it like burdensome or whatever. I just, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could say, do you want to go to a Megadeth concert? I'd be like, not my jam, but yeah, let's do it. Like, and I'd probably have a good time.
Yeah.
You know? So I think what's been most impactful to me is saying yes as opposed to no, because I spent my life saying no.
Yeah, that's huge. That's pretty cool.
So, if you invite me up, odds are I'm going to say yeah. 80-20, I'm saying yeah, Joe.
Cool.
Right. If I get that invite.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. See how the rest of this conversation goes.
Did you send me a Christmas card?
I haven't sent anyone a Christmas card.
Because I don't think I've seen yours yet. Okay. I figured there was a delay in the mail and maybe it was.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a really long delay in this one. I think the last time we sent out a Christmas card was about 8 years ago. So.
Oh, good. I've never sent one out either.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my wife is really good at that.
That's right. That's right. So you've essentially said no to saying no, right? You've cut way back on that. Yeah. Way back on it. But I'm happier for it. And so it sounds like something you plan to continue doing. Yeah.
I mean, for the rest of my life. I mean, I thought I was happy saying no to things because I was like, oh, that's just a burden. I don't have time for that. It's not, and there's still some things I have to say no to, but I kind of go into it again, intentionally with, I'm going to say yes to whatever, unless there's just no physical way it's going to happen, for whatever reason. We'll say you ask me to jump out of a plane, probably not going to happen. There's a few things out there, probably not going to happen.
So what area in your life feels just about perfect?
This one made me laugh. I don't know how to define perfect.
Yeah, I put it in quotes when I sent it.
You know what? I feel like if one's life is perfect, then they've run out of things to look forward to. Mm-hmm. What's the point of living if you're not looking forward to something? Okay. I don't know. Kind of my take on it. Like, sure. I think, it's like, I don't know. It's like you dream about winning the lottery, right? Financially, you'd be set. Yeah. But if you want enough money and there's nothing you couldn't buy, does any of it really mean anything? Like, you don't appreciate it anymore. You're not looking forward to, whatever. And I think that whether it's financial or, I don't know, maybe a more perfect marriage. I think you could have levels of perfection, more perfect, closer to perfect. Yeah. Perfect. I don't know how to define that. So I don't know if it's achievable or not.
Well, it sounds like, given your description of the idea, perfect is not something to be attained. So maybe a better way of phrasing it would be, what area in your life feels like it's going exactly how you want it to be going, with in the trajectory that you want it to be heading in.
Gosh, I think all areas could use so much improvement. I think if you dissect it, sort of what you say is you want them to be moving in. I think professionally for the role I have today, I think it's going great. The issue is I don't know if it's the role I want for the next 10 years. My marriage, it's good, it could be a lot better in a lot of ways. I think an area that has improved, probably to no fault of mine or nothing I've done to impact it, but I think, like my kids, like they're kind of coming out of that teenage stage and they're becoming like real, like adults. Like it's almost to the point where they want to hang out with you, as opposed to like the last few years. It's like they want nothing to do with you. You embarrass them and all that. Like, my 21-year-old is like, it's funny. We're going to head out west and go to a brewery out past Leesburg. And she's all excited for it. She's like, can we go at sunset? Like the views look amazing. I'm going to take my camera and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we can go whenever you want. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fun. Like I got another friend.
Yeah.
It's, you start to come out of that parenting stage, if you will. Right. And now it becomes more of a friendship. And it's been kind of progressing, like, and the girls are very
sure.
different.
I'm sure it wasn't a switch that just turned on all of a sudden.
Anything but when you look back, you can see how it was a gradual progression. Like, oh yeah, I can kind of see when that started to happen. So I think the trajectory of that, my relationship with kids, is awesome. Like that's getting better and better and better. Maybe some of it because there were periods where it was just really hard, just like super difficult, super stressful. Like, is this ever going to end? Are they ever like, what are they? And I guess you realize all that's kind of fleeting. It's a short-term thing. They all kind of go through, teenagers to different degrees, and just you'll come out of it.
A lot more confident about that when you're on the other side of it, though, right?
Oh God, yeah. There was you were on the front side of it. It's scary, and I won't dive into details, but we had some touch and go moments that I hope nobody else has to live through. And we've known people that have gone through similar stuff, but it's you do like the work stuff became very unimportant. And I was thankful at the time that I had a boss in a company that I'd been with a long time that were like, do what you got to do. Work from where you need to work from. Like, if you can't do it, tell us you can't do it. Like, take care of your family first. And that really, and they'd always kind of talk that way, but when you experience and they're like, yeah, they're there with you. I'm like, do what you got to do, man. And maybe that's part of my commitment to work is, I've been there a long time. They've done a lot for me, and maybe it's just my way of trying to do as much as I can for them. Yeah, this is eye-opening stuff, man. It's like some of this stuff as you talk through it. But yeah, I've got some great, solid, personal friendships with people. I have few, but they're really solid and really good. And, I wouldn't trade the few I have for, a million, friendships that are less deep, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think that part's good. I mean, they're going through some life struggles. One of them's going through a divorce, and that's been rough on them. But yeah, I mean, that part of my life I think is good. Financially things are good. I can't complain. I'm blessed. Given the COVID situation, and you think about the impacts to other people, and reality is it hasn't impacted me yet. I say yet. We did have, I don't know where either one of these will go, but ironically, about an hour before our call, my wife got a call, and her uncle just got taken by ambulance to an ER with super high blood pressure, oxygen levels like 70%, shortness of breath. So that's been, hour and a half, 2 hours now. Not sure what the update is there, but he has been working. He's retired, but he does some stuff at Home Depot. So he's been working every day. So hoping it's not COVID related. And then a few minutes after that call, one of my wife's best friends gets a phone call that her mother just got taken by ambulance to the hospital. No idea what for, or any reason there. So my hope is neither is COVID related. But yeah, thus far we've been blessed. I have nothing to complain about.
You're welcome to.
The grand scheme of life.
Yeah. Well, that's really, good perspective to have. That's really good perspective to have. But, you can always complain to me. You know that.
I think I have. I think I do.
You have. Yeah. Good. Well, and I appreciate that you do. Who is someone you admire, and what do you admire about them?
So it's funny. So that is one I racked my brain about. Lots of people in my life, people I admire for different reasons, but for the purpose of this call, and I don't even know this person that well. So my best friend's son was recently married, got married back in October. His name's Colin, and his new bride is Maddie. And I've known Maddie for maybe a year. Met her down in Nashville. They were living down there, and my friend and I made a road trip down there, stay with them for a couple of days. And it's funny, what I admire about her is just the free spiritedness of her. And literally, she is a day by day person, does not think of just no context of future. And that has its own downsides, right? There's a balance to everything, but she lives in the moment, not even the day, like the moment. And I saw that side and I was like, man, that's awesome. Like, I want just a little bit of that. Like, I don't want it all. Like, I want a good balance of stuff, but I need a piece of that living in the moment piece. Cause I don't, again, I have to think through everything and analyze everything. And part of me trying to get better is this whole say yes to everything, right? That's like the first step for me.
Yeah.
But I may say yes to something, but I may not fully open myself up to it. And it's such a simple thing, but this girl is just so, she's just a big sweetheart, but she's just so open to anything life throws at her. They actually made a move back to Virginia Beach recently. And, my friend's son is like, God, I don't know if she's going to want to move. Her rest of her family, they're in Chattanooga. So we're in Nashville. We're not that far away. And when he brought it up, she's like, hell yeah, let's go wherever you want to go. I don't have anything like that in my life. I try to move. My wife's like, oh no, we're not going anywhere. Right. So
you're admiring it from the other side of the fence. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of that. But yeah, just being open to whatever. And, life being a series of little journeys and you go through one and you come to a fork in the road and you go take another path and go see what, and I haven't had enough of that in my life.
Well, it sounds like by shifting from saying no to saying yes more frequently, it sounds like you're taking a major step in that direction.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely better. Definitely better than I used to be. Yeah, it's been a slow kind of uphill, but I'm walking uphill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll crush it at some point, and not that I expect the other side to be downhill, but at least flat. Right?
Yeah. What will that other side look? What will success look like once you've achieved this?
I think being okay with where I'm at in my own head, knowing where I've come from and being okay with what I've gotten to. It's going to reflect progress on many fronts. Did I push myself? Was I able to do things I didn't, wasn't able to do previously? I think just self-satisfaction in a lot of ways.
How do you check in on your progress on that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's always been part of the problem. Is I'm checking in with myself. Makes it really easy to go, I'll save this for tomorrow. Right. And I do a lot of that, right? Take it day by day, but it's easy to say, I'll do that tomorrow instead. Right. It's only a day. It's not going to impact my time frames or anything, but you know what tomorrow really means. It's like, okay, well, I'll get to it when I feel like it. So yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree to this. It's hard to hold yourself accountable. I think, professional athletes don't get to where they are because some do, I suppose. You got golfers and tennis players, like individual sports, right? Where you don't, it's you and nobody else. But I think of like teams and stuff like that. You're accountable to coaches and teams and all that. And I think business is the same way. You're a big team and you're accountable to folks in business. And I think that makes it easier. I think people are more successful because of it.
Yeah. Building in that accountability system, right?
Huge. Yeah. Doesn't guarantee anything, but it helps. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's oftentimes I call it rigging the system for success, right? So you figure out what you need to be successful, what you individually need to be successful, right? And maybe it's the accountability system or whatever it is, put it into place. If it's worth doing, it's worth putting your system into place. Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah.
Right?
So even if that's a bit of trial and error, because sometimes you don't know till you land on it, right? Till it hits you in the face. Going, wow, that was easy. That's what I need.
Precisely. So you start with what might it be?
Yes.
But you follow up with the action, right? You follow up with the action, and then you get a little more data.
Or you ensure you have that person you're accountable to that hits you in the head when you don't.
Right. You don't really, right? Because any given day, your motivation is going to wane. It'll just kind of ebb and flow. You can't count on that to be consistent.
Hence getting to habits where they're not reliant on motivation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Motivation's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's cool when it's there. Not so much when it's not.
It's rare. Yeah. It's really rare. My motivation for this whole challenge thing is here today. It'll probably be here Saturday and Sunday, but 2 weeks from now, that motivation will have waned, right? So it's going to have to be something bigger.
Right. But you've already put into place the accountability because you've signed up for the thing. You've shared it with people, right? And for you, traditionally, historically, that has kept you going. So
And you're going to call me in 2 weeks to see how.
Well, I'm going to check on you now that you've shared it with me. You better believe it.
Yes, I know.
It's knowing who to share it with as well, right? Because it's one thing if you share it. I mean, obviously, we just talked about yourself, right? You're going to let yourself down all the time, right? Yeah. Or you're going to give yourself a break. You're going to rationalize, right? But and similarly, sometimes with a significant other, you share it, and the other person's just like, I don't want to make a big deal of this, or we've got bigger fish to fry. Yeah. Well, they care, but they tend to care about bigger things as well. So yeah, finding the right accountability is key as well.
For sure.
What do you imagine some people admire about you?
I think, I feel like I'm stuck on the same topic. I mean, I think work ethic. I think, again, the good and the bad that goes along with that. I think, dedication to something. I think, expertise with a certain skill, maybe. There's other things I'd love to be able to say, but I think I am, I'm also a bit of I keep a lot to myself, emotionally, things like that. I don't share a lot of that. I should share more. So I think there are things I could tell you and your audience about myself that other people can be like, oh, really? Like, I believe it. I believe I have this huge heart, and I'm really caring, people and animals and all that stuff. But then I'm around others and I kind of like, I'm going to put a little bit of a shield up here. They're not going to see all of me. But you close the doors and those people aren't around, and I'm a little bit different. And I do wish I was a little bit, more, I am who I am, and everybody sees that, but they don't. So there's stuff I could tell you that it wouldn't be answering your question again, because these people aren't seeing some of those things.
It sounds like what you're answering is what you admire about you, and parts of yourself that you like about yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're also saying that you'd like to maybe share that a little bit more freely than you have historically.
I don't know if that's what I'm saying.
Not quite there, huh? Not quite there. All right. Well, you did tell me you should probably do it.
Well, that's where I struggle. Should I? I don't know. Does it matter, right? Like, I know who I am, I think, and I'm good with that. Like, I feel good about who I am as a person. Do I need to share it with tons of people? I don't know. You're not going to find me posting on Facebook and Instagram and I don't share my world. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it annoys me sometimes when I go onto the social media and I see people living their lives through there. It's so not me. And I think maybe part of that is I've been turned off by social media and the amount of sharing that takes place. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I think it has shaped that a little bit.
For sure. That makes sense. I mean, it's so prolific. It'll definitely shape it, right? It'll paint a taste or a flavor on what that means to share who you are. But you also, I believe, just shared that you'd like to be able to live your life and have others know about who you are also.
I don't know if like is the right word. I think I would like to be more indifferent about that. In other words, not putting up a shield. If something happens organically and I'm, just be me, as opposed to putting up the shield to kind of take some of that off or pull it back.
Okay. So less defensive, less hidden, less energy hidden towards hiding it away.
But not because I'm motivated to share. I think it's more motivation to be me as opposed to hiding some of me, if that makes sense.
So you're not talking about proactively sharing it or shoving it at someone's face, but you're talking about taking some of the energy you're putting towards the wall and just putting that energy back into being more you.
So, because that's a good point. It does take energy to shield it, to build the wall, if you will. Yes, I think that's a good way to say it. Again, I don't know that I will get anything out of that other than one less thing to think about in my life or worry about or whatever. It's energy that I could put somewhere else.
That sounds like a benefit to me.
Yeah.
Reallocating your resources.
That's going to take some practice stuff. Like lots of things that has,
How much you practice it?
0.
No, what's a way that you might practice that?
I have no idea. That's a good question because it's never been a priority. Honestly, this is the first time I've thought through that.
Cool. Well, let's keep going.
And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that says about me.
It doesn't have to say anything about you. You just haven't done it before. That's all. It doesn't have to be more than that.
Yeah.
Because the over analytical person might ask that question, right? But I don't know that it really matters why you've been that way. Sure, you could dig into that, but as you're digging into that, you're also not moving forward or making progress.
And, part of that may be that I've done it so long that people think they know me now.
So what's the point you've shown them, right?
Right. So do I really want to disrupt that, change it? Like, I don't know.
Challenge.
Does it matter?
Challenge. What are you trying to do here? You just said how you'd prefer to not put energy up towards any kind of shield. So it's not about anybody else and what difference you're going to make on their view of you. It's just so you can reallocate that energy to just be more of who you are.
I hear you.
So
how do I start that? I'm not sure.
How might you start it? What's one way you might put less energy towards the shield?
The guard.
When do you catch yourself shielding?
I don't think I catch myself doing it.
Okay.
I don't think it's a premeditated thing. I think it's...
Sure, that makes sense.
I think it's this I don't know how to word this correctly. It's almost like it's this alternative persona that I don't even think about. There's two Drews, right? There's the Drew that only I know.
Yeah.
And then there's the Drew that everybody else knows.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I actually think about it. It's not intentional. It's just when I'm in a place where there's some action that somebody's going to see or a response that somebody's going to hear, I just think that's what comes out. Like, I'm not thinking about it. Like, that's who I am in that environment.
Sure.
Because when I'm alone and thinking, well, not that I'm spending a whole lot of time in thought, but it's the way I think or act, right? I don't think about that either. That just kind of comes out and happens. But the minute somebody else is listening or somebody else is watching, it's a different one that just comes out automatically. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a very intentional, whatever that looks like. It's going to have to be a very intentional disruption to that. And to your point about the energy, it's going to take a lot more energy at first, right?
Mayhaps. Perhaps.
Mayhaps.
Yeah.
Mayhaps. That's an interesting word. Yeah, this is a lot. I'd have to wrap my head around that. I'm not sure what that looks like or how that starts.
May I invite you to start unwrapping it? May I dig a little further?
You may.
Thank you.
If you'd like.
Well, I would. I would. All right. So you're aware that you're not aware in the moment when it's happening, when you're putting up the shield. It just kind of happens instinctually because seemingly you've been doing this for such a long period of time. It's just what you do when you're in a quote unquote social setting or when you're around other people.
Or family. Yeah, it's everybody.
Okay. Yeah. So likely though, you can look back at a recent-ish example of when you've done this, when you've showed up as the Drew that everyone else knows.
Gosh, I don't know.
Okay. When's the last time you were in a social setting?
I guess last weekend, if you want to call that, with my daughter and going out to dinner and then her friends coming over.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of.
That's a great example. Yeah.
Hanging out.
How did the social Drew or the avatar Drew that everyone knows, how did that person show up?
So that might have been the had many, many drinks before they showed up Drew. So there may have been a lot less of a wall there. So that's probably not a good example.
Actually, maybe it is.
And the other, it's interesting, right? So obviously this was a younger crowd, my daughter's friends. Half I knew, half I didn't know. It's funny. The half I didn't know was the group I spent the most time with, not by choice, just they were interested. A couple of them were interested in hanging out with the adults versus the kids for whatever reason. I probably disclosing too much here. I guess it annoyed me. Not how I envisioned maybe spending the evening, I guess. Not that it was my evening, it was my daughter's evening, but the way it kind of rolled out, I was probably a bit annoyed. Shouldn't have been, but I was. This person I didn't know kind of came in and said, okay, I'm going to sit next to you on the couch and we're going to hang out and we're going to talk. And, part of it's the COVID thing. Didn't really want a bunch of people in my house anyway. It just kind of happened, right? And like, what do I do now? Do I go throw on a mask and be that person, or do I ask them to? Or anyway, didn't do any of that, right? Tried not to embarrass the daughter, but obviously it annoyed me. And I definitely think I got to a point where as I got annoyed, I closed down trying to do in the conversation without being a jerk about it. Mm-hmm. Just, short answers, stuff like that. It's a terrible example because I don't think that was a case of me shielding anything. I think it was a case of me being at a bad mindset and just wanting it to be over.
I think it's a prime example. I think it's key. I think it's what it sounds like is that you shielded that person from getting to know what you were actually thinking and actually feeling.
Oh, for sure. From that perspective, because I was trying to be nice. That seems different.
Which is what everyone in a social setting who has experienced you knows you to be, right?
A little different. Nice. And yeah, maybe.
Not that the real you is not nice, right? It's not that it's the polar opposite of nice, but it sounds like it wasn't the genuine you showing up.
No, I think it was the selfish me that showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I got annoyed at something that was making my daughter happy. Had we not been in a COVID state, might not have annoyed me. Had it not been midnight and I was exhausted, might not have annoyed me.
For sure. All right, hang on. Before we go challenging all the other parameters that are happening, keep all the other parameters the same, right? Keep it all, the time's the same, the COVID's the same cast of characters. The new Drew, the one who wants to put less energy towards a shield, how would he have reacted to the situation?
Probably would have just flat out excused myself and went on to something else versus sitting there being kind of not as sociable as I should have been.
Ding, ding, ding.
Probably would have just gotten out. Yeah.
What would that have resulted in?
Probably two things. I would have been happy I was out of the situation. I probably would not have been happy with the way I handled it. Because
it was different?
Because I would have seen that as being rude, I guess.
Okay.
To me, that is ruder than kind of being a jerk. I don't know. That probably translates to my marriage too in some ways.
Is it rude to not be yourself and to give short answers in a conversation where someone's genuinely trying to get to know you?
Yeah.
Isn't it rude what you did anyway? I mean, we could challenge the definition of being rude here, right?
There's no challenge. I agree with you. I was rude about it. Yes.
Okay.
Great. Both, yes. Either direction.
So if you're going to be rude anyway, why not be rude intentionally and be happier? It sounds like by trying out this new way.
Yeah, but see, I think in my own mind, I felt like I was happier not being as rude.
Sure, but we're going to challenge that assumption.
Okay, challenge.
Because the point is you're going to try to put less energy towards this emotional shield because you think it would give you more resource and energy to being who you want to be, who you typically are anyway. And it sounds like in the specific example, it might have led to you being happier that you had your time back.
It would, in the long run, yes, it would have. It absolutely would have. I would have felt like a jerk, which I try to avoid, but I would have been happier. And maybe therefore I would have been nicer to the next person I spoke with.
Perhaps.
Okay.
So is feeling like a jerk something to avoid then? Is that what you're trying to avoid also?
It's probably one element. It probably would have also kept me up. So at that point I shut down and went upstairs. Mm-hmm. And that was, of course, don't know what time it was, midnight. I was tired anyway. But at that point I was like, okay, once I got away from that, I'm just going to get away from the whole scene and attempt to go to sleep. So I went upstairs, went to bed. The alternative outcome might have been had I handled it differently, but I would have been okay with that if I was okay with that. And I would have stayed up and hung out for a bit longer. Yeah. Perhaps.
So anyway, that's a great example, I think, actually.
It's a different example. It better, worse, whatever. I guess when I kind of brought it up, I'm thinking more along the lines of wife, close friends, people like that I don't think truly know me. They're just things that I just do differently in their presence. Again, I don't think about it until maybe after the moment's over, going, God, why did I do that? I always do that. I got to stop doing that. Could be whatever. Just not being my true self. And again, I don't know that it's something I desired. I don't care. I don't think that's going to make me better, them knowing me better. But I think it does. I agree with you. I think it's an energy thing, even though I don't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Because the fear is what? If you act like your true self, then what? You're going to come off as...
Then they're going to be like, who are you? I don't know. I guess it's just the unknown.
Yeah. But you've done something like that recently where you started saying yes to things, even though there's unknown here. Very similar situation, it sounds like.
Different kind of unknown, I think. It's not a personal unknown. Right. It's whatever. It's a new space for me, if you will. Right. But I think it's because this is personal. I think.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of not overanalyzing the similarities and differences here, it sounds like you have a way now that you might think about how you want to show up differently in social situations.
Potentially, yes.
What do you mean potentially?
Because I'm still not sure how much it matters.
To whom?
To anybody, including myself.
No, well, which is it?
Both.
You've identified for yourself what it might matter, what the potential benefit was.
Well, yeah, but again, I don't know how much that matters to me. I'm calling it out as something that's there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if sharing the real me, more of the real me. Again, it's not like I'm totally hidden. I think most people know most of this, right? Am I going to find some benefit or inner peace or something? I don't know.
How would you know?
I mean, I know I'm not motivated to share my life.
Fine. That's fine.
You know? So again, I think the context is not so much that I want to do that, like share. It's just if I happen to, purposely or by accident, do I get energy back for something else? Okay. Whatever that may be.
Well, I think we're getting into slightly different territory because this sounds more like proactive sharing, which is something you weren't really talking about before. Before you're talking about energy to putting up a shield. So we're just talking about taking the energy away from that shield.
No, I know. Yeah. Yeah, we are. It's two different things. I would just kind of coming back to the whole, like I'm tongue tied at the moment.
That's okay. This is all new stuff.
Trying to figure out, yes.
Trying to be articulate too. I understand that's probably a thing, but you don't really have to be that. My wondering currently is about the idea of being rude and how much that has to do here of the fear of coming off as rude. And if you're able to kind of face that fear, if you will, right? Because the likelihood of you acting differently isn't going to swing you all the way into rudeness territory. Let's imagine there's a continuum here, and that removing some energy from that shield isn't going to flip you into that rude asshole that you're so concerned about being.
No, I think you're right. Yes, I think my perception of rude is not necessarily somebody else's perception of rude. I can be an asshole, and I can feel good about it.
I think that's a particular situation, though. I don't think that's the norm.
It's when, again, this particular example, nice guy, super friendly, just wanted to hang out and, talk adult stuff, if you will.
Sure.
And I don't even know if he was the reason I was annoyed. I think there were probably lots of reasons that day.
It's not what you wanted to be spending your time doing at this particular social gathering.
At that particular minute, you're probably right.
It doesn't need to be more than that.
Yeah, but to your point, walking away and not feeling bad about walking away, that is difficult for me.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's my challenge to you. Practice walking away.
Okay.
All right, good. So I appreciate you sticking with that example and with me for a while.
Yeah, that's hard for an overanalyzer, Joe.
I know. I know. So I don't want you to analyze. I just want to practice walking away. Do it. Consider this. You don't need to make this a heavy lift. Think about the people who know you so well that an incident of you walking away isn't going to tarnish their view of you.
If you ask my wife, she'll tell you I walk away all the time.
Well, there you go. Practice that. Practice doing that.
That's easy. To your point, somebody that's not going to walk away from you tomorrow, right? They know you. They know you well enough to know. Okay, he's all right. It's all good. It's more so the people that I guess maybe that don't know you quite that well.
Yeah. So
I will work on that.
Good.
You'll be the first to know. That's what I just did.
Good. So as we're mid conversation, I want you to just walk away. All right. As we continue this conversation.
Oh, I thought about hanging up on you.
That's good. I think with the power of editing, we could have made it work. So
absolutely.
I welcome it.
For sure.
All right. Well, I really have appreciated all your time here. I want to kind of open it up a little bit to ask if there's anything that you want to share as it relates to the general topic of intentionality or kind of thoughts that you've had that we haven't really touched on.
God, whether it seems like it or not, I feel like I've shared way more than I ever thought I would have shared.
That's great. I appreciate it.
Honestly, it's it's nobody's perfect. We've all got things we excel at and things that we suck at. And, I think we're all trying to get better. I think a big part of that is sort of coming to grips that you're not going to get better by yourself. It's going to take some help, some support, some people going, dude, you're thinking about this all wrong, right? Because we all have different perspectives too, right? That help shape our thoughts and our actions and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes, in this case, you just need somebody that doesn't have those things kind of biasing you or biasing me to say, look, dude, all right, that's all great. I'm going to remove the noise for you, if you will, and get you to think about it a certain way. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, though, is to be intentional means I have to break it down to things I can be intentional about. And it's going to be really small ticket item, going back to the whole day-to-day thing. That's how it's going to have to be with anything for me.
Sounds like a plan.
I have a plan for one piece of my life, right? One piece at a time. But I think,
don't you have to start somewhere?
You do. And I think being successful with one piece means, what, I can do it with another piece now, potentially. I mean, I've shared with you other things I'm trying to do in my life, and I'm still working on those things. They're just not happening on the time schedule that I had for them.
Sure.
I'm actually going to look at a house tomorrow, if you will. Out west, not so much as a rental, but maybe as a place to move to, possibly. Old farmhouse with some land.
Excellent. Well, I would like to continue that conversation offline. We don't need to share all those details.
But I'm still being intentional. I'm still looking at places, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I know it. That's good. Well, you're also sharing it with someone who you know is going to ask you about it regularly.
Sure. That's good. That's good. That's why I told you. Good.
Well, hey, I always appreciate our conversations, but in particular this one, very, very much appreciate your time and your genuine consideration of your responses here.
And I thank you for having me on, inviting me, and I don't know. Hopefully, somebody gets something out of this. And
if nothing else, I will play it back for you when the time is right.
Ooh, it might be painful. If nothing else, I'm getting something out of this. Honestly, this has been great for me. It's been therapeutic.
Good. I appreciate that. I'm really glad. I'm really glad it has been. All right. Well, ideally, this will be the first of multiple conversations that our audience will have the pleasure of listening to. But in either event, I appreciate it, and I wish you continued success in the new year.
You too, buddy. Thank you, man.
All right.
Let's do it again soon.
This has been Intentionally Ever After, hosted by intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek. If you would like to have your own intentional conversation with Joe on or off the air, visit intentionallyeverafter.com. Thanks for listening.